Welcome to Fractured Chaos.
They say the most dangerous woman is one with nothing to lose, but that's not true. The most dangerous woman is one who's already lost everything and still has one thing to protect. My name is Stephanie Carson. For 20 years, I've been in love with a married man. And for 20 years, I've been perfectly content being the other woman, the side piece, the mistress, whatever you want to call it. Before I continue, drop a comment to let me know where you're watching from, and give this video a like to show your support. Now let me tell you what happened. But what you need to understand is that Richard isn't just any married man. He's the kind of man other men want to be, and women want to be with. Successful attorney, beautiful home in the suburbs, picture-perfect family Christmas cards. And me? I'm the shadow, the secret, the woman who knows the taste of his skin better than his wife does. People like you probably judge me. That's fine. I stopped caring about judgment around the same time I stopped caring about his wedding ring, which is to say, I never did. What I do care about is what's mine, and Richard has always been mine in the ways that matter. Let me tell you how it all began, and why I'll destroy anyone who tries to take him away from me, including his wife. 20 years ago, I was 25, working as a paralegal at Coleman & Wyatt. Fresh out of college, desperate to pay off loans, living in a shoebox apartment with 3 other girls. Richard was already a partner at the firm, married for 5 years with a 2-year-old daughter. The first time I saw him, I felt it. That pull. The kind you can't explain but can't deny either. He was presenting a case brief in the conference room. I was delivering coffee. Our eyes met for 3 seconds. Just 3. But it was enough. 2 weeks later, I was working late. So was he. He asked if I wanted Chinese food. I said yes. We ate at his desk, talking about nothing important. When I got up to leave, he touched my wrist. Just barely. Electricity. That's all it took. The next night, we stayed late again. And the night after that. On the 4th night, we didn't even pretend to work. Hotel room, downtown. The kind with thick walls and discreet staff. "This can't happen again," he said, getting dressed afterward. I just smiled. We both knew he was lying. What he didn't know was that I'd already gone through his wallet while he was in the shower. I knew his home address, his wife's name, his daughter's birthday. Information is power, and I've always believed in being prepared. Oh, and one more thing. His wife, Carolyn? She wasn't just anyone. She was the daughter of the firm's founding partner, the same man who had made Richard's career possible in the first place. You might think our affair was just about the sex, the forbidden thrill, the secrecy. For a while, maybe it was. Hotel rooms, quick lunches, late nights at the office when everyone else had gone home. But something shifted around year 3. Richard's second child, a son, had just been born. His wife was consumed with motherhood. And Richard started talking to me. Really talking. About his dreams, his fears. How he felt trapped in a marriage that looked perfect on paper, but felt empty in reality. How Caroline had married him because her father approved, not because she loved him. How they hadn't truly connected in years. "You're the only one who sees me," he would say, tracing patterns on my skin in the dim light of whatever hotel room we were in that night. The real me. I believed him. I still do. By year 5, we had our routines. Mondays and Thursdays were our nights. He'd tell Caroline he was working late or meeting clients. Sometimes we'd go to my apartment. I'd moved to a place of my own by then. Sometimes we'd go to hotels. For my birthday each year, he'd take a business trip, and we'd spend a weekend together. New York, Chicago, once even Paris. I had my own life, of course. Friends, hobbies, the occasional date with other men. Though none ever lasted. They couldn't compare to Richard. None of them could give me what he gave me. Not just financially, though he was generous. No, what Richard gave me was understanding, acceptance, He never tried to change me. What he didn't know was that I'd been keeping a journal of our relationship from day one. Every meeting, every conversation, every promise he made. Not because I planned to expose him, but because I needed proof, for myself, that what we had was real. And somewhere in that journal was the secret that would eventually bring his perfect world crashing down. Richard wasn't just having an affair with his paralegal. He was systematically embezzling from his firm's biggest clients, and I had the records to prove it. 10 years in, things changed again. Richard made managing partner at the firm. His father-in-law retired. Suddenly, Richard had more power, more money, and more stress than ever before. Our relationship intensified. He needed me more than ever. Not just physically, but emotionally. I became his confidant, his advisor, the woman behind the man. He'd run major decisions by me before presenting them to the board. I knew things about the firm that even other partners didn't know. "Sometimes I think about leaving her," he said one night, his head on my chest, voice low in the darkness. Just walking away from it all. "What about the kids?" I asked. "They were 12 and 9 by then." "They'd understand eventually," he said. "They're barely mine anyway." That stopped me cold. "What do you mean?" He laughed bitterly. "Caroline was pregnant with Emma when we got married. That's why her father pushed for the wedding so quickly. Wanted to avoid scandal." "But Emma looks just like you," I said. "Coincidence," he said. I did the math later. She can't be mine. And Matt? Well, let's just say Caroline and I weren't exactly intimate during the time he would have been conceived. I felt like the room was spinning. All these years I'd been the other woman to a man whose whole life was a lie, whose children weren't even his, whose wife had manipulated him from the beginning. It made me love him more. We were the same, Richard and I, both playing parts in a story written by someone else. What Richard didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that I'd already had a DNA test done, on both of his children. Hair samples aren't hard to get when you're invited to company picnics as Richard's trusted assistant. And the results? They told a very different story than the one Richard believed. By year 15, we had settled into a kind of domestic bliss that most married couples would envy. We didn't live together, of course, but we had our own kind of home. Richard kept an apartment in the city, registered to a shell company owned by the firm. Officially, it was for out-of-town clients or lawyers working late. Unofficially, it was ours. I had a key. I kept clothes there, cooked meals there, waited for him there. 2 or 3 nights a week, Richard would come home to me. We'd eat dinner, watch movies, make love, fall asleep together. For a few precious hours, we could pretend we were a normal couple. His oldest, Emma, was in college by then. Matt was in high school, busy with sports and friends. Caroline had thrown herself into charity work, climbing the social ladder of Manhattan's elite. She barely noticed Richard's absences anymore. Or at least, that's what he told me. Richard spoke of retirement, of buying a place somewhere warm, Florida maybe, or the Caribbean, somewhere we could be together openly. "Just a few more years," he'd say. "Once Matt's in college, once I've built up enough of a nest egg that Caroline can't touch." I believed him. I waited, patient as ever. What I didn't tell him was that I'd been approached by the FBI 6 months earlier. They were investigating financial irregularities at the firm. They knew about the embezzlement. They knew about our affair. And they wanted me to wear a wire. I refused, of course. I would never betray Richard. But I did start moving money. His money. Our money. Little by little into offshore accounts that neither Caroline nor the feds could trace. Just in case. And the DNA results I'd gotten years earlier? I kept those close too. Insurance policies, you might call them. For a rainy day. Year 18 brought the first real test of our relationship. Richard's father-in-law died. Heart attack on his yacht in the Mediterranean. Caroline was devastated, of course. Richard had to be the supportive husband. For months, he barely saw me. I understood. I waited, like I always did. When he finally came back to me, something had changed. He seemed distant. preoccupied. "Caroline wants to move," he told me one night. "To London. Her father left her properties there. She thinks a fresh start would be good for all of us." My blood ran cold. "All of us?" "The family," he clarified, not meeting my eyes. "Matt would finish high school there. I could open a London office for the firm." "And what about me?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He took my hand, squeezed it. "I'd come back often, for business. We'd make it work." That night after he left, I sat in the dark of our apartment for hours, thinking, planning. The next day, I called in sick to work. Then I drove to Connecticut, to the beautiful colonial house where Richard lived with his family. I'd never been there before. It felt forbidden, dangerous. I parked down the street and waited. Eventually, Caroline came out. Slim, elegant Caroline with her perfect blonde bob and designer clothes. She got into her Mercedes and drove away. I walked up to the house, rang the bell. The housekeeper answered. "I'm here to see Matt," I said confidently. "I'm from the college counseling office. We had an appointment." She let me in without question. Matt was in the living room playing video games. He looked up, surprised. "You're not from my school," he said suspiciously. "No," I agreed, sitting down across from him. "I'm Stephanie. I work with your father." His eyes widened slightly, then narrowed. "You're her, aren't you? Dad's friend." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" Matt laughed bitterly. "Mom's known for years. She has a private investigator on retainer, has photos of you two together. She keeps them in her study." The world tilted sideways. All these years, Caroline had known, had photographic evidence, and never confronted Richard? Never divorced him? Why wouldn't she? "The prenup," Matt said simply. "If she files for divorce, she gets almost nothing. If Dad leaves her, she gets half of everything." I felt sick. Caroline wasn't heartbroken. She was calculating, waiting, just like me. But that wasn't even the worst part. As I was leaving, Matt called after me. "By the way, Mom's not really moving to London. That's just what she told Dad to see what he'd do, to see if he'd choose you or us." It was a test, and Richard had chosen his family. At least that's what he'd let them believe. What Richard didn't know was that his son, the son he believed wasn't biologically his, had just become my most unexpected ally. The London move never happened, but something else did, something I never saw coming. Richard filed for divorce. He didn't tell me he was planning to, didn't consult me. Just came to our apartment one night, champagne in hand, triumphant smile on his face. "It's done," he said, popping the cork. "I've filed the papers. I told Caroline everything." I should have been overjoyed. This was what I'd waited for, wasn't it? Richard, free. Ours. But something felt wrong. "What about the prenup?" I asked. "Won't you lose everything?" His smile widened. "That's the beauty of it. I found a loophole. If Caroline has also been unfaithful, the prenup is void. And guess what? She has been, for years, with her tennis instructor." "How did you find out?" "Matt told me," Richard said, pouring champagne into glasses. "Apparently it's been the worst-kept secret in the family. Emma knew too. They just never told me because they didn't want to hurt me." I took the glass, mind racing. So Caroline had her own affair, her own secret life, just like Richard, just like me. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we can be together, properly. No more hiding." We made love that night with a new intensity. A celebration. The beginning of our real life together. 3 days later, Richard was arrested. Securities fraud, wire fraud, embezzlement. The FBI had been building a case for years. They had evidence, witnesses, a paper trail a mile long, and at the center of it all, Caroline. Sweet, calculating Caroline, who had been gathering evidence against her husband since before Matt was born, who had known about his affair, his fraud, his offshore accounts, everything, who had been working with the FBI for years, building a case, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That prenup? It had another clause. If Richard was convicted of a felony, Caroline got everything. The house, the money, his share of the firm, all of it. When I tried to visit Richard in jail, I was turned away. "He doesn't want to see you," the guard said. I called his lawyer, called in every favor, finally got a message to him. His response came a week later. A letter, delivered to our apartment. "Stephanie," it read, "they have everything, the records, the accounts. They even have recordings of our conversations from the apartment. Caroline had it bugged years ago. They're offering me a deal if I testify against other partners at the firm, including you. They say you were complicit, that you helped me hide the money. I'm sorry, but I have to protect myself. You should get a lawyer. Richard. Not I love you, not I'll fix this. Just get a lawyer. 20 years of my life, gone in an instant." What Richard didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this moment since the beginning. Since the very first night I went through his wallet in that hotel bathroom. I had my own records, my own insurance policies, and I was about to use them all. The media called it the scandal of the decade. Richard Bowman, managing partner at one of New York's most prestigious law firms, indicted on multiple counts of fraud. His wife, Caroline, the grieving daughter of the firm's founder, portrayed as the innocent victim who had bravely helped authorities bring her criminal husband to justice. And me? I was barely a footnote. An unnamed female employee with whom Bowman allegedly had an inappropriate relationship. That's all I was to the world. But behind the scenes, a different story was unfolding. The day after Richard's arrest, I received a visitor at my apartment. Not the FBI as I expected. Not Caroline coming to gloat. It was Emma, Richard's daughter, the child he believed wasn't his. "I need to talk to you," she said, pushing past me into the apartment. She looked around, taking in the space where her father had spent so much of his time. "So, this is where he came. What do you want, Emma?" I asked, wary. She turned to face me, her eyes so like Richard's, hard and determined. "I want to help my father, and I think you're the only one who can do that." "Why would you want to help him?" I asked. "He's been cheating on your mother for 20 years. Emma laughed, a harsh sound. "You think I care about that? My mother has been cheating on him for longer. Their marriage was a business arrangement from day one. What I care about is that she's destroying him, taking everything. And for what? Money she already has? Power she was born into?" She reached into her bag, pulled out a flash drive. "This has everything. Mom's financial records, her communications with the FBI, evidence that she knew about Dad's creative accounting for years and said nothing because it benefited her too. She's not an innocent victim. She's a co-conspirator who turned state's evidence to save herself." I took the drive, stunned. "Why are you giving this to me?" Emma's smile was cold. So cold. "Because you're the only one who loves him enough to use it. The only one with nothing left to lose." After she left, I plugged in the drive. Spent hours going through the files. It was all there, just as Emma said. Evidence that Caroline had known about and benefited from, Richard's financial schemes for years. That she had planned his downfall meticulously, timing it perfectly to coincide with her father's death and the reading of his will. There was more, too. Evidence that Caroline's affair with the tennis instructor had begun before Matt was born. DNA test results, conducted in secret, just as I had done, proving what I already knew. Matt was Richard's biological son. Emma wasn't. Emma was the tennis instructor's daughter. The next day, I walked into the FBI field office with 3 things: Emma's flash drive, my own records of Richard's activities, and a deal brokered by the best criminal defense attorney in Manhattan. Full immunity for me in exchange for evidence against the real mastermind of the financial fraud at Coleman and Wyatt, Caroline Bowman. What Richard didn't know was that while he was betraying me to save himself, I was about to save us both. The trial was a media circus. Former socialite Caroline Bowman, charged with conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction of justice. Her husband, Richard, now a cooperating witness for the prosecution. Her daughter, Emma, testifying against her. Her son Matt, sitting in the courtroom every day, expression unreadable. And me? I watch from a distance. My testimony had been given in depositions, my deal sealed and delivered. I didn't need to face Richard in court, didn't want to. Caroline was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Richard, in exchange for his cooperation, received 3 years, most of which would be served in a minimum security facility. The firm was fined millions but survived barely under new leadership. When it was all over, when the dust had settled, I received another letter, this one hand-delivered by Matt. "He wants to see you," Matt said, holding out the envelope. "He asks about you all the time." I took the letter but didn't open it. "Why are you doing this? Delivering his messages? After everything he's done to your family?" Matt shrugged, looking so much like his father it hurt. "Because he's my dad, and because what my mother did was worse. She used all of us, him, me, Emma, even you, as pawns in her game. At least you and Dad had something real." After he left, I opened the letter, read Richard's apologies, his explanations, his promises for the future. "When I get out," he wrote, "we can start over. Go somewhere new. Be together properly, like we always planned." I folded the letter carefully, put it away with all the others. Then I booked a flight to St. Lucia, to the beachfront property I'd purchased years ago with money from those offshore accounts. Accounts the FBI never found, thanks to my immunity deal. The home I'd been preparing for years. Our retirement plan, just as Richard had always talked about. Except now, I wasn't sure if it would be our home or just mine. 3 years is a long time to wait, especially when you've already waited 20. What Richard doesn't know is that I'm pregnant. 45 years old and carrying a child I never thought I'd have. A child conceived during those last desperate nights before his arrest, when we thought our real life together was finally beginning. A daughter, our daughter, and I still haven't decided if I'll tell him about her. If I'll be waiting when he gets out of prison. If I'll give him the chance to be part of our lives. Because the truth is, after everything, after 20 years of being the other woman, the mistress, the shadow, I finally realized something important. I do care that he's married, not to Caroline. That sham of a marriage is over. But to the idea of us, to the promise of what we could be. The question now is whether that marriage, the one in our hearts, the one we built in secret hotel rooms and stolen moments, was ever real at all, or was I just another mark in Richard's long con? Another woman who saw what she wanted to see. I guess I have 3 years to figure it out. 3 years to decide whether love is worth one more chance. After all, what's 3 years when you've already given someone 20 of the best years of your life? The most dangerous woman isn't the one with nothing to lose. It's the one who's lost everything except hope. And hope, like love, dies hard, even for the perfect side chick.